Today on the Social Corner.
You have to get to a position of ownership. You see what I'm saying? And I think as a community and as a people, that's where the real power is. All of this getting a good job or doing great in a place and a space that you do not own is temporary and at the will of somebody else.
Welcome to the Social Corner with me, Daina Mpunzi. My guest today is an award-winning director and filmmaker and the creative producer of the Midlands' leading film development programme for people of colour. He's partnered with some of the biggest companies in television and film, and he joins me today as the multifaceted creator and educator that he is. Daniel Alexander, welcome to the Social Corner.
What an intro. Like, we might need to cut and paste that for later.
I struggled to get it into that because there's just so many achievements, so many accolades.
I appreciate that.
Because you're not just a filmmaker, you're not just a director, there's so many more kind of aspects to you. Do you see yourself like that though?
No, not really. It's weird because it's kind of like everything has happened so organically. It's kind of hard to like put labels on things and feel like you're kind of attributed to these labels. The only thing that I really see myself is as a daddy more than anything, do you know what I mean? And everything else just kind of ties in around that, so yeah.
Firstly, so when I was thinking about you, I was kind of taking myself back. And I managed to go back to about 2002, 2003.
Wow, okay.
It's the first time I met you. Yes, I'll explain. So I was at college and I was in a rap group.
Using it? I don't mean to laugh. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. I was the lead singer in the rap group.
Are we allowed to know what the rap group's called?
It's called Verbal Reasoning.
That sounds familiar.
We were deep. Yeah.
I was gonna say it must be with that kind of title, like
Eric Barnaby.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So
okay.
I was gonna ask you if you
That's mad.
Shout out to the crew. I was gonna ask
Shout
you
out
if
to
you remembered them because
I remember they're really good group of guys.
Yeah. So we all went to college together. And they said to me, we've got this track and we want you to sing the hook. And, you know, they'd already kind of written the lyrics and stuff. So I went to their house, practiced it. Yeah. And they were like, the same day, we're going to go and record this now. And I was like, okay, fine, just tagging along. Yeah. And we ended up coming to your house.
With my mum's house, that would have been, innit?
Yeah.
I think.
I don't know whose house it
was. Yeah, just like, you just rolling through.
And I just remember you being in this room, set up with all this stuff.
Yeah. Gadgets.
And I sang my hook and that was it. And that was kind of like, nice to meet you. Mad. But it was music. So fast forward now, you're in film.
Crazy.
Was film always the dream?
No, I started out with me. So at that point, I was running studios. Right. So that was in my mum's house. And then was it before or after? So I think after that, in my next house, that was in Handsworth, and I converted 2 rooms into a studio, and I was just running studio full time. So film was literally by accident almost. Oh. If that makes sense. It was literally because the software was similar. Did a lot of mixing now for people's albums, recorded a lot of people's albums and singles and stuff like that. So I remember those guys. So even the name of Verbal, I remember the guys.
I told you we were deep. And then we actually performed that in Centenary Square.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Am I owed any royalties? Like, I just need to know now. Like,
well, if you are, so am I, because I haven't seen anything. But anyway, so tell me a bit about young Daniel then. So obviously before the music, before film, what were you like as a child growing up?
Weird. Still weird now. You know what I mean? But weird in the sense of I just, I don't know, I was just always doing my own thing. Like I wasn't really somebody that would be in big groups of. In fact, that's a bit of a lie. I was always with big groups of people. I always felt I got bored quickly and I just wanted to do my own thing. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of my friends growing up were involved in stuff that didn't really appeal to my nature and to the things that I wanted to do. Do you know what I mean? So it's a case of I quickly found myself just dreaming a lot and trying to find ways to kind of realize those dreams. And I realized that the only reason that I've ended up where I am is because of voices like my mother, do you know what I mean? And my dad and people around me, because they kind of allowed me to have them foolish dreams as a child. When I say I want to do this and I want to do that, like my family, they're very much like, go on then. Do you know what I mean? Like you can do whatever you want to do. I don't know how, but like they encourage, you know what I mean? They encourage that. So it was never kind of shunned upon. So as a young boy growing up to be a young man, I was just always willing to kind of, you know, look for a dream, kind of follow a dream.
There's this term that goes around nowadays called saying, you know, you're a creative. This person's a creative. What is that like? What is a creative? Because at school, I don't know if a child knows that they're a creative when they're taking things apart, putting them back together. They just know they have an interest in something, like you said. So thinking back to yourself then, how would you have defined yourself? I know you said weird, but it's not so weird now.
But would I call myself a creative back then?
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. So again, this isn't something that I've, you know, verbalized at any point prior to today, but I don't believe that the term creative is the way that it's being applied. Sorry, is as powerful as the way that it's being applied for right now. I think a creative, we're all creatives. I think that term for me is just like somebody saying, I'm a human. You know what I mean? Or I'm alive, I'm a person. I think there's a difference between your creativity being fed and nurtured as opposed to, are you a creative or not? Do you know what I mean? There's some people that have probably never done a creative thing in their life. Do you know what I mean? But going back to earlier on in school and stuff, like in the playground, you're creative, you're making up games, you're finding ways to you know what I'm saying, engage with people. Just navigating yourself socially is creation. But taking that beyond, you know, day-to-day interactions and having it nurtured is massively instrumental of how you're gonna follow that path further down the line. So I don't think being a creative is a title as much as somebody who's a singer or somebody who's a dancer, and those kind of attributes are skills that you either learn or kind of necessarily born with. Maybe it's in the DNA. I think creativity is in everyone. It's just a simple fact of is it nurtured or not. If I'm being honest, I didn't have a clear vision of where I wanted to be when I was older. And sometimes I used to be envious of other people, especially in my industry as well, when they say things like, yeah, I was 8 years old and I had a video camera from my dad and we made this short film and I've been doing it for so long. Like I didn't touch a video camera until I was 21 or 22 or something like that. Do you know what I mean? And so for me, I never knew what I wanted to do.
And I think that's really important because you do hear that so often. Like you've got to, you know, kids at school know what you want to do, leave college, and there is such a massive amount of people, young people, who don't necessarily know what the next step is. Do you think it's okay not to know?
I think it's 100% it's fine not to know. I think, but to kind of add to that though, I think you still need to have the space to realize what is possible though as well. I think those two things need to go hand in hand. Absolutely fine not knowing what you're supposed to do. I think it can actually be dangerous if you put somebody into a very narrow path from early on and don't give them any opportunities for anything else. I say dangerous, that's just based on my own crazy limitations of life, do you know what I mean? But I think it's totally okay, but still people need to be aware of what those options are. Like when I was in school, if I said to anybody that, oh yeah, I want to be a filmmaker, everyone would have looked at me weird. I know that for a fact because it never came up once throughout my whole school period. It was never a conversation of this is a possibility, this is a career path that you can go down.
Let's talk a bit about your career then, because it's huge. It's huge.
I've got to live up to these questions now.
How did this all start? Where did it start?
Literally by accident. So when I was younger, the three things that I knew I wanted to do was either something to do with music, youth work, or making films to some degree. Right. And when I say young, I mean like 19, 20, so 21 kind
around
of thing.
About this age.
Yeah. And at that point, even as young as I was doing a lot of youth work through the music. So I was always recording kids' music and getting them to kind of talk about their social issues through music to kind of, you know, tackle a lot of things that were going on back then. Because back then there was obviously there's massive issues going on with young people now. There was equally massive issues going on back then as well. So we use music as a way to kind of tackle that. And then by accident, it was a youth project. It was a youth scheme that we were doing through Choice FM at the time. It was London Choice FM.
Oh, not Birmingham.
Not Birmingham's one now. It was a joke because I know Choice FM turned to Galaxy.
Galaxy then Capital.
Yeah. So in London it was Choice FM. I don't know what they are now, but they brought me on board to do a youth project, and we were just like, maybe it would be good if we can do a video for them for the track as well. So I didn't know what I was doing, but the software was very similar. The music video and the video software is very similar. So I had a video camera that I got as a present from Argus, just to do like you know, just film family events and whatever and blah, blah, blah. So I tried it and I was just like, okay, this works. And we made a music video for them. And it literally, at that time, you didn't really have music videos on YouTube unless you was like doing your thing properly. And a lot of them kids were kind of like, yeah, man, it got them noticed quite a bit. And then I just got gassed. I was just like, do you know what? I'm gonna try and do something. So I tried to set up this company called Grind TV. So what it was is just basically going around with this video camera and interviewing loads of musicians, artists, radio DJs. We went to London. I think the first interview that we did was with a DJ called DJ 279 on, I forgot the radio station. Access was easy back then as well, because nobody else was really doing it. This was before like your SBTV days and all of these massive platforms and stuff. Yeah, man. So I was doing this. I was running around. I got loads of artists now that are massive, like literally are massive, and I had them all there. And I got to the end of it, and I just remember saying, "This is long. This is not what I want to do. This requires a big, massive team of running around. It's almost like journalism. Do you know what I mean?" So I just like scrap it. Can't be bothered. A couple of years down the line, I'm seeing all these platforms do the same thing and just blow up, and I'm just thinking, probably missed the trick there.
When I think about music videos, I used to, my TV stations were The Box, MTV Base, and that was it really. Okay. I used to switch over to MTV sometimes and think, what is this? So I'd just go flick back to Base. But the music videos, I grew up with like Hype Williams and you know, those kind of directors that would shoot them kind of slow-mo. The lights and
crazy shiny outfits.
Diddy spinning around and all that kind of stuff. So when I think about music videos, I go then back to those times. Obviously, those are big production budgets. You had a camera, and at this point, what was business like for you?
In the beginning, it was tough, because it's like no one had the money no one really believed in themselves to kind of invest into music videos from an independent point. Like if you know, record labels and stuff is completely different, but you know, I'm working with artists that just make music in their bedroom. You know what I mean? And they want to make music videos. So that was tough, because in the beginning it was, you know, there is no income.
I think a lot of people, when they think about getting into, I use this word loosely, as I say, creative profession, they think money's going to roll in straight away, but there's almost like paying some dues sometimes that has to be done.
100%.
And I can imagine some bedroom rapper, or at the time, didn't have that big massive budget to be paying for music videos. So
not at all. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, in the beginning, like, it is literally that. It was a case of, I didn't understand it at the time. It's mad because there's so many principles I understood internally, but I could not articulate it. And the one thing that I did understand was consistency. I know that you have to do something over and over and over again for it to pay off sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Unless it's clearly not working. When I say over and over again, I mean keep hitting that wall, and then if this doesn't work, just adjust your angle or change the tool, and basically stay on the goal. And I remember I was in London as well. I was doing Grind TV, and I came across an artist in the radio station, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, I need a music video." And at this point, I probably been getting £50 here, £100 there, and he was just like, "I ain't got much money, but I got £500 if you're willing to do it." And so in my head, I'm just like, "Come on." You know what I mean? Yeah. So I was like, yeah. So we shot it in London, which again is in my rookie days, because looking back, like, that was mad. Because when we got there, there's about 100 people out on the block in Tottenham. And I was just...
Are these 100 people for the music video?
Yeah, this is their block. Their block. So when I got there now, I heard talks about, "Oh yeah, we're gonna get it right this time." And I was like, "Right this time? Like, what happened before? You had a music video before?" And it was just like, yeah. Oh, but they robbed the camera from the guy, and I was just like, I'm with about 3 guys, and I'm just thinking, if this goes south,
your camera's gone.
Yeah, like I'm willing to fight my way out, but it's not gonna win, am I? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But then, yeah, that £500 then turned my mind into a different way of thinking, where I was just like, all right, then this is the area of money that I want to operate in. So that's just what I just started saying to people, like, nah, it's £500. And I lost loads of clients. I didn't even call them clients back then, because it's not a real business, is it? And it killed me, because I was scared. I was just like, oh no, maybe I need to go back to the £100. I need to go and play in that little pool that I'm used to. Yeah. But it was accepting the fact that I'm going to lose a lot of people that made me realize that I'm also going to gain a completely new client base. And that is something that I still do to this very day. Do you know what I mean?
From that accepting to the realization, I always see a bridge. There's a faith jump there.
Yeah, 100%.
In terms of, because you don't know, do you? It's like literally leapfrog kind of one place to the other. What bridges that gap for you? Because you still have to go through those kind of decisions now and say no sometimes in order to say yes to yourself. So what kind of bridges that gap for you?
So for me, it's by being a little bit crazy, because I realize that not everybody can do or kind of, accept the way of thinking that I had. Because my thing is just like this: I don't mind going broke and sleeping on the floor. Do you know what I mean? In the transition to a better place.
Right.
Whereas I know a lot of people even today will struggle with that kind of way of thinking. They'll be like, no, I've got real life to think about. I've got bills to pay. I've got blah, blah, blah. I've got children. And I understand that. And I would never recommend anybody to even think or feel the way that I do. But I'm very much, I'm very at home with losing everything to get to where I need to go. Like, I'm okay. I can't remember who said it, but it's that kind of philosophy of take the island. Like, if you're going to go to an island to take it, burn your boats. So you have no option to leave the island and go back to safety at some point. Like, once you can make that commitment, you're here now.
Has there been a moment in your life that made you think, you know what, I'm just going to go for it? Have you experienced anything that's, because you talked about burning your boats, that made you say, right, I'm going to burn this boat?
Yes.
Sure.
So, I mean, there's been a few moments, but I think a key moment is when my cousin died, my cousin Dwayne, who is a little bit younger than me, but he was kind of like, you've got your cousins, that's always the one that's the closest age to you. So that's your cousin, that's the one that's going to be at your house, that's the one that you play out with, that's the one that you do this with or whatever. So it was mad. So I remember speaking with him at a family event, and he was talking about taking on this job that he hated. And he said that he's only doing it for a little bit, but he doesn't see any other way. But he wanted to pursue creative stuff. There's certain things that he wanted to do, but he was just like, I can't do it because I need money. I need to do this. I need to do, make a life and blah, blah, blah. So I'll get to it at some point. Then the following week or a couple of weeks after, he stepped off a curb, just normally, and sprained his ankle, which is just crazy. It is what it is. And the doctors put him in a leg cast. So, he's just at home, just chilling, just playing computer. But what the doctors don't tell you, that is, if your leg is in a cast, you need to keep it moving so it doesn't build up blood clots. So unfortunately, I don't think this information was passed on to him. So a blood clot must have formed and separated and went straight to his heart or brain or whatever it was, and killed him. Do you know what I mean? Like, just out the blue, like he's sitting there playing the PlayStation or whatever he's doing in the room, and his life's just gone in a flash. And when I went into the room, so this is early on, like his older brother let us know what was going on. We got to the house, gone in the room, saw his lifeless body on the bed and whatever, and it was obviously one of the worst things I've ever seen. Like, it still haunting me to this day, that vision. But it just takes me back to the conversation that we had about all the things that he wanted to do, but didn't do for fear of not being able to live by doing something he doesn't want to do. It's just, it just really bothers me now, even when I think of it. And it makes me really, really burn my boats, in the sense of, like, you don't know if tomorrow is promised. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not promised to anyone. And I can imagine that if he knew that his days were numbered, would he still have gone to that job that he doesn't want to do for the next couple of months? Or would he have said, you know what, this is the point of my life now where I have to try and live my dreams, and whether it works or it doesn't work, or I go broke, or maybe, whatever, I've got to take that chance because this is life. You know what I mean? And that's something that really, really resonates with me now. It's a sense of, I don't want to live with regrets. That's my fear. If the only thing that I'm scared of is any harm coming to the people that I love and dying with regrets. And my thing is like this: if you ever want to get the best advice, speak to an old person. You know what I mean? Because they always tell you the same thing. It's a case of, I should have done this, I should have done that. And it's true. It's like looking at my cousin at such a young age, with all of his life ahead of him, his little girl who's growing up to be a beautiful young woman right now, and all of these things that he wanted to do and he didn't get to do, because so many of us are caught in that trap of, oh yeah, but I just need to survive, and I'm going to put my dreams on hold, and I'll get to them one day. Like, we don't know when that one day is coming, if it ever comes. So I make sure that every moment that I get, I remember to realign my vision of saying, I have to go for it. I might go broke. I might not have the income that I want. It may never work, but in that moment of pursuing it, I'm gonna feel alive. And if I died in that moment, I'm alive. I've done it. And there's no other place that I want to be. It quickly let me realize a new definition of success. I always used to think success was this place that you get to, like, okay, I've done this amazing film, or I'm in this company, blah, blah, blah. Success is progress, it's movement. You know what I mean? So if I've got an idea and today I'm moving on it, that's success. And that's all I want to die with inside of me, either living my dreams or I've lived out my dreams. You know what I mean? It's about that journey. It's not the destination, it's about that journey. So through my cousin's death, I want to make sure that there's energy, there's things that his daughter can see, and being like, you don't even realize that your dad has inspired me to do something that has affected so many other people in the process as well.
And that's his legacy.
That's his legacy.
Was there ever a moment or an experience in your early years that made you become socially aware of the environment you were in, whether that be your community, family, faith, education, whatever? Was there something at some point that you can remember that twigged your social consciousness?
The earliest memory that made me look at the world differently was I was in primary school. So I was a little kid, I remember, and I remember a car driving past. And I don't know, I'm guessing you guys can bleep this out, but I remember the car driving past and just shouting out to me and my friend, nigger. Grown men. And I just remember thinking, and it's not the first time I've ever heard it at that point, but it just let me know that, but these are grown men, like these are adults. You know, when you're that young, you're looking up, it's just like adults know everything. They're the smart ones or whatever. And I just remember thinking like, oh, okay, like I'm different. And I remember that changed a lot of outlook, the way that I kind of saw the world from that point on. Not necessarily changed my behavior, but made me feel very aware when I'm in certain situations. Like for even little things like when I'm catching a bus from school, like I know that if there's anyone that catches the bus from school knows there's always a drunken guy on the bus at some point. Do you know what I mean? So it got to that point that as a young black boy as well, I quickly realized that if there's a drunk white man on the bus, two things are going to happen. He's either going to try and talk to me in a nice way, but very inappropriate, and ask me about, do you like Bob Marley too? I have jerk chicken, all of that kind of stuff. And as a boy, it's embarrassing, isn't it? Because you're looking around, especially if you're by yourself and you're looking around, it's just like, I don't know how to engage in this conversation, but I realize it's very inappropriate. Or the obvious one where they're just very racially abusive. So it started to shape the places that I would go to. Same reason why I never went to pubs, because when you're younger and you're just about that age where you can sneak in and be acceptable. And certain times I've been there with my friends, and then as soon as certain people get drunk to a degree, it was always the same thing. Like, it's coming, what's going to happen. The same two things, either inappropriate conversation or racial abuse. I experienced a lot. I can only speak from my own experience, but I experienced a lot of that when I was younger, which made me just kind of be like, you're just aware. You grow up quickly. You know what I mean? You realize that you are different. You realize that things are different for you. And it did change the way that I spoke when I went into certain rooms. It did change the kind of rooms that I would go into. It changed the kind of way that I would present myself socially as well. And like I'm ashamed to say it now, do you know what I mean? But in the sense of, like, sometimes you try to tone your blackness down when you go into certain rooms, because it's just like, I'm aware that you see me differently to you, and not different in a cool way. Like, if you go abroad and it's culturally different, but different in a way that is less. So a lot of the times I'd go into a room and I try and pretend I'm not the thing that I am. Not completely, just tone it down a little bit as a young man. And looking back, that pains me to know that I even did that. You know what I mean?
And I don't think you're alone in that. I think we've all done that. I know, I recognise, and that strikes a chord with me, especially when I was in the television mainstream. Yeah, that's all I ever did. It's like you've got a dial on your back that you just turn the blackness down, And so I totally, and I have the same feeling when I look back and I think, why did I do that? But is it so much that we have to look at what we've done, or look at the fact that that space wasn't inviting, wasn't welcoming for you? So is it more a matter of we've toned it down or we're trying to survive?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I don't even know if I've got the answer. I mean, if I'm speaking for myself, a bit of it was survival, a bit of it was just wanting to fit in sometimes. You know what I mean? So, and I'm talking very early on, like growing up. It's weird because you still battle with it in a different way today. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily so much about some of the issues that you would have dealt with before. Sometimes it's just about understanding that this set of people might not understand my culture in a certain degree. So all of these jokes, all the way that I'm speaking, even down to food and stuff, you're just going to be completely lost. And after a while, sometimes it's not in the mood to explain. Do you know what I mean? It's just like I can't bother. I just want to be me. I just want to be able to be me and exist within a space, if that makes sense. So but early on, no, like to answer your question, I'm not sure, but definitely I think there is a sense of survival in there because you do feel that it's very kind of prevalent, especially with the school that I went to as well.
Yeah.
It's it was in an area where in them days it was the NF, the National Front, were very, very heavy in that area. Like used to be outside school and whatever. So you get your mates together, you get your black mates, and make sure that we're protected. Like there's 10 of us. Like yeah, it's not even like we try to necessarily always fight back. Sometimes it's just like there's enough of us for them not to bother. Do you know what I mean? So it was a lot of it was wild, but it did build a lot of character and a lot of strength and a lot of probably who I am today. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm not afraid of being me, and I'm not afraid of another human being.
Something that has always registered with me about you, and I think I'm understanding it a little bit more now as you speak, is as you've kind of risen, you've always remained so humble and very giving.
That's what you think.
Well, I can only see like obviously what everyone's, but the things that you're involved in, the things that you do, the things that you're advocating for, you don't have to do it. You can literally just have your career and be done with it. Yeah. But I've seen that in you, and I kind of want to know where that comes from.
It's got to be from family. Like it has to, because like in our household growing up, it was like our family is very giving. Do you know what I mean? Like if somebody comes to the house, they're leaving with something. Like even to this day, if I go to my mum's house, it's bags that I'm leaving with. I'm like, Mum, I don't need bread. I'm okay. Do you know what I mean? But it's just like, it's very, very giving. Like you could be a stranger. You know what I mean? Like my mum and dad, growing up with both of them, blessed to have them both in my life, and so giving. But literally whoever would walk through that door, they became family. And they very, very much made a point of instilling within me that you always take care of people. A lot of my career and everything that I've done is based on giving. And in a way, it's a little bit selfish because it's what makes me feel good as well. Like it makes me feel fulfilled, and that is very much part of my journey. And I just love serving in that way.
One of the things about being in this industry or any industry is it's one thing to rise, but it's your character that kind of gets you there, keeps you there.
100%.
What would you say are some of your strongest character traits?
Just not being an arsehole, I think. Sorry for the French.
What's the A to Z on not being an arsehole?
Like I think it's just putting other people first. And I know that can be detrimental in certain situations because, the whole thing of like, no, you got to help yourself, you got to focus on yourself. But I find that when you care about others as much as yourself, your own blessings come through anyway. You don't have to search for them as hard. They just naturally form. Like some of the biggest things that have happened for me career-wise have literally been off the back of helping somebody with no idea that would be a result, if that makes sense.
I guess I want to kind of find out some of the other social, because you mentioned gospel when you first spoke. How has faith played a part in shaping you?
Yeah, 100%. So like my family's always believed, it's been I don't want to say Christian household, but it was a Christian household without anybody going to church. You see what I'm saying?
So was mine.
Yeah, there you go. So, but my mum, at what point was it? I don't know what the year was, but I remember my mum got cancer. Wow. And they told her that she wouldn't live to see, I think it was Christmas. I can't remember the exact dates and whatever, but it was bad. It was that cancer. You see what I'm saying? And then that's when she took her faith seriously. And then she went to church, and she was smoking at that time. She gave up smoking. it's mad to think that my mum was ever smoked. That's
I
crazy.
can't picture
I
her
can't. Yeah,
smoking
no, exactly. It's mad, isn't it? She stopped smoking in a day. She just decided that she's going to stop. So she went to church and she gave her life to God, and then she went back to the doctors, and the doctor said, "I think we've made a mistake." And she was like, "Why?" And she's like, "Because the cancer's completely gone." And he said, "It's impossible. Like it was riddled. Like it's gone. It's completely gone." And she was like, "My mum was like, yeah, I know." And I was like, "How do you know?" She goes, "Because I prayed about it, and God says that I was going to be healed, and whatever the exact situation was." And yeah, and that, I mean, it's one of them things as well, whether you believe or you don't believe, it's just a simple fact of you said you weren't going to live till Christmas, and when you went back in, it disappeared, completely gone. And luckily it's never come back. Do you know what I mean? So growing up and having that as a back, I've always believed in God as well. I've always believed in God. And you know, I take religion and people's faith and belief very seriously. So I always find it hard when I say that I'm a Christian, when I don't necessarily practice that, because my thing is like this: if I call myself a Christian and somebody is thinking about becoming a Christian and they look at me and see some badness that I'm doing right now, depending on what I'm doing, or like, wait, you're a Christian and you're doing this music video and this girl's doing what, and this guy's doing this, or you're doing a film and he's doing what. I'm always conscious about my my level of representation, but I'm a big believer in God. I'm a big believer in faith. I'm a big believer in energy as well, and the powers within the universe from a very scientific point of view, if that makes sense. Like I'm a very big person that believes in vibration, and I know God is a taboo subject and means different things to different people. But me, I have grown up in a Christian household, and my faith is massively important to me. Like I pray every day. I pray every day that I'm in the car when I'm driving. That's usually my place, my time that I can think. And sometimes just giving thanks and just being thankful. I wake up every day and I'm happy. I'm thankful. I feel blessed. I can't believe how amazing my life is, just for the simple fact of I'm filled with so much people that love me and I love them, and I know that's rare.
I'm coming across like a bit of an Instagram stalker because I am.
It's all right. It's all right.
But you recently put up a post and you said, before with your daughters, he says the caption, "Before them I was building a living, now because of them I'm building a legacy." Besides being a really great caption, what's behind that statement? What that's because it's quite deep.
Yeah, and it's mad because it's so true. Like even as you're saying it, like it's hitting me on the inside. You know what I mean? Because it's literally, before them, it was very much a case of I was just doing what I was doing to help the people around me and have a good living and have a good life. That was it. And when I die, whoever comes after me, essentially, hopefully they don't have to start from scratch, but it is what it is. When they came, and when I look at them every single day, and I just found this new love that I've never had for anybody on this planet before, and I'm just like, I want you to be able to walk in greatness. I don't want you to have to struggle the same way that I did. I still want you to struggle a little bit, because I feel like that's where growth and development comes from. Like I want you to struggle in the sense of learning and wanting to be greater than anything that I do. Do you know what I mean? But I want to build something that you can walk into and have ownership of, and then create opportunities for other people as well. So every time I look at them now, I don't feel the same way about my career. I look at them and I'm just like, I want to build a legacy. I want to build something that they can own. I want to do it for them, and I want to do it for who comes after them, and I want to do it for, do you know what I mean, other people. Yeah, it very much took me out of myself. Do you know what I mean? And making it very limited. I just want to make sure that when I go, there's something to pass on. I don't want you to have to start again from scratch.
I think that's very admirable as well, because especially in the black community, coming from your parents from the Caribbean,
both Jamaican,
both Jamaican, so same as mine, and you'll know the stories of when they came over and you know how they had to kind of just survive really, and it was all about get some money, send it back home, build a house and go back. And then a lot of them have stayed, but not necessarily had something to pass down. So our generation really has been that one that's kind of done it from scratch, as did theirs. But I think there's a shift now in like exactly what you're talking about, in that actually it can't be for them to start a scratch again from when the next generation starts. There's got to be something.
Yeah, otherwise it's all for nothing.
Yeah.
It's all for nothing. Like my parents, just like many others that have came over from that era, love us more than anything. And the advice that we did get was to survive, get a good job, and survive. That was what was taught to us because they loved us and that's their understanding. You know, you come into a country where you definitely don't fit in and you have to survive yourself, and that's the lessons that are obviously going to be taught. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like this generation had to learn it from somewhere else. Don't get me wrong, some of our parents are, you know, fortunate to be business owners and done certain things, but many of us were from a place where we've had to learn that lesson elsewhere. And that's why I feel like there's so many, that's why it's really important for me to be able to kind of offload that information to anybody that I can who may not necessarily have that way of thinking, because we have to get to a position of ownership. You see what I'm saying? And I think as a community and as a people, that's where the real power is. All of this getting a good job or doing great in a place and a space that you do not own is temporary and at the will of somebody else. Like, we need ownership. We need, not just for the economic side of things as well, but for the aspirational side, for people to look up and be like, I can do this too. You know what I mean? There's somebody that looks like me who has attained this level of power and influence, and I want to attain that as well.
I want to talk a bit about the social side of things.
Cool.
Social change and politics, really.
Yeah, sorry, because we came off the whole BAME thing. I'm ready. Let's go.
So politics and social change, and I think obviously family, having children now as well, feeds into this. But what role does your creativity play in the development of the conversation with regards to politics and social change? I say politics loosely, but social politics in diversity, shaping the community, ownership. How does your creativity, your filmmaking input into that conversation?
So I let that be my voice again, because whereas, you know, whatever's happening in the world from a political level or social issue, I'm not the person that's going to jump on Twitter and rant and have my say and argue with people. I'm not in that. I'll kind of talk through my art. So for example, with the whole George Floyd situation, when that first came about, my first response was, I'm going to create a little film. I created that film literally while my kids were in the bath. It was literally a response. It started with them in the bath, and by the time I finished, it was time for them to get out the bath. And then I released it online, and then went out my way, do you know what I mean, doing what I'm doing. And then I remember looking at my phone, it was like 20,000 views within whatever, just going crazy. BBC calling me, doing interviews on TV and whatever. So that's my response to the world, to politics, to everything. I let my art talk, and I hope that it kind of does what music did for me back in the day. It gives somebody a voice that they might not necessarily have at that moment in time.
There is a huge turning of the tide, I think, in the film industry and television industry with regards to getting talent and people in front and behind the camera from Black communities, Asian communities. Netflix are doing their strong Black lead. You know, there's just been so much change, and I imagine it's different to when you first started. Very much so. How important do you think this is, and is the shift here to stay?
It's definitely important. I think it's good that it's being addressed. And when I say addressed, I mean more so just being brought to people's attention that there is an issue. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's when you think about our representation as Black people within the industry, which I think is less than 3% worldwide, is crazy. It just means that we've technically been invisible for a very, very long time. So like now with the shifts that are taking place within different networks and stuff, it's good, but I feel like there's a massive amount of work to still be done if we do want it to be here to stay. And the work that needs to be done is the process of inclusivity needs to change. So instead of the problem being, okay, there's not enough Black people on the board, or there's not enough Black people on the crew, not enough Black actors, etc., and it's being headed by people that don't look like us. We need to involve people in those decision-making processes. Otherwise, it's just going to be a fad that phases out when it's not necessarily needed to be addressed anymore. If it's a problem that is to be addressed full-time, then we need to have people that can operate at the levels of decision-making processes, of the decision-making process, and of an ownership place as well, sometimes as well. So, I mean, one of the things that frustrate me a lot is seeing the fight for things that we don't necessarily need to fight for first. Like sometimes it's okay for something to be happening over there. Like let's use our power to create our own things sometimes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Not all the time. Like I do feel like certain battles do need to be fought, and you know, things need to be fair. But at the same time though, I feel like we can't forget the power that we have within our Black community, especially when we come together and we're all on the same page, where we can create something and sustain that. Do you know what I mean? So I think for me that's very, very important, and that's something that I'm very keen on doing, and I'm always trying to do, and I'm always trying to create platforms, or I'm really trying to feed into other people who have those platforms already, and just make sure that they do develop and they do exist and they do stand the test of time.
You talked about just now about getting people in positions of power and things like that. And it's weird because it's kind of like a chicken egg situation, because how do they get there? Well, somebody has to kind of bring them forward or bring them through. I guess my question is around tokenism. And, you know, before, I don't know if you grew up hearing the token Black person.
I remember
in the show.
I had to learn what that was. I was just like, what does token mean?
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, that's what that means. Oh, okay, I get it.
And I think the first time I realised that wasn't just a conversation in a Black household was when I watched South Park.
Yeah. That's what came to mind when I was thinking about it.
And the character was told token. Was it token?
I can't remember. I'm sure it was just token. Could have been.
Yeah. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is a real thing, you know, because I we're actually pointing fun of it. I see. How do we stop that from happening? Because we're talking about the longevity and this movement being here to stay. And I think if tokenism still exists, it's not going to stay, because that's based on the premise of this is what's in. This is what's popular right now. We're not. Black people don't need to be popular. They need. You know, we need to be affirmed and fully in place in the society that we exist in.
100%.
So, what's your views on that?
So I can't stand, like it proper winds me up. Do you know what I mean? It proper winds me up. I just think it's a cheap way of addressing a problem. Do you know what I mean? So, and it doesn't fix anything. In some senses, it actually just highlights the real problem, in the sense of who's in control and who's at the asking position, if that makes sense. That's why I'm very keen on, let's create our own stuff sometimes, you know what I mean? Like obviously, I understand you're gonna work and you want to get on certain platforms and stuff, but we can't keep ignoring the need for creating our own table sometimes. We can't, because the whole that tokenism stuff extends past from just a talent on screen. Sometimes it's just down to representation from a career point of view as well, in the sense of like, oh, you might just be the only Black person in the room to facilitate the needs and ideals of that company, who just are literally just going to use you for that. Like sometimes we have to just really be honest with what the situation is and find a better way to address the situation, because there's so much talent within our community and so much opportunities that can be missed if we keep waiting for handouts. Like it's time that we start building. And
let's talk about the building of the table, because I think this is a phrase, a term that I've been hearing a lot more recently, and there's a collective desire to do it. The resources, are they there?
I mean, if you're talking about the traditional resources that you would go for to build something from scratch, it's a lot harder for Black people to kind of acquire them. I mean, it's a statistical fact. It's a lot harder. So when you say, you know, the resources are there, yeah, they are there, but trying to acquire them is completely different to somebody who might not look like us. It's a fact, whether you want to agree with it or not. Again, I think there's a parallel between resources and being resourceful. So sometimes if I can't access this funding, I can access this community who can empower me to the same level, if not more, than what this funder was going to offer, if that makes sense. You know, as the consumer nature of so many of our community have and have proved that, you know, with our buying power, with our influence within society and the economic world, like we have everything that we need to create the biggest platform or the biggest anything in the world, if we so choose to. You know what I mean? So I think, like you said, the talk about the table and the building is something that's going around right now, but a lot of that still needs to stem from a place of understanding how we can effectively work with each other as well, because the desire to work with each other is there. But, you know, if we're being honest, it's still pretty brand new within this society, in the sense of how do we work, especially when we're all chiefs in our own right. Do you know what I mean? Like, even sometimes in the film world as well, like when I've been involved with projects, and it's just like, you know what, let's get together as a community and make something to inspire the generation of black young people who might not feel like they're part of this industry. Let's show them what black creatives look like when they come together. And then it's difficult sometimes when you get so many in the room, because it's like, we all do the same thing. No, how do we work together? Because sometimes it may mean that I might have to play a lesser position for a little bit to make this big cog work. Do you know what I mean?
And I think that's such a key point, because that's where, going back to your earlier comments, that's where the character comes in. That's where understanding that it's for the greater good comes in, and allowing someone to come through, knowing that once they get on that rung, they'll pull you up.
100%. And sometimes it's not even worrying about that as an end result. Sometimes it's just a case of being able to see something and being like, this is going to be good for a generation of people who have not had many people who look like them when they're looking up. Do you know what I mean? So I've been involved in several projects with people that I don't even like, but I know full well that facilitating this is going to be a massive source of inspiration for this person coming through or that person coming through. So many things that I've done for free as well, because I know that it's an important project. Do you know what I mean? And certain things that I've done where it's not even me playing my usual role. Like, I have to just literally, okay, you just want me to do that? I'll happily do that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to back away from that, because I know it's going to help get this made, because it serves a bigger picture. So I think it's important sometimes that, for me anyway, like, know when to lead and know when to follow, as long as it's all serving your people.
I'm just going back to your two twin girls and the world that they are now in, very different to the world you were in at their age. How have you developed as a person, as a man, in shape, wanting to leave them with a world that you're okay with them being in? You know, so many things have changed. What are you doing now to, I suppose, make the world a better place for them?
That's a big question. That is a big question. I think the only thing that I can do is just being the best person that I know how to be, and just showing them what love looks like. Do you know what I mean? And I mean love in a widest sense of the term, which is putting them first, sacrifices, working hard for something bigger than yourself, treating others the way that you want yourself to be treated, or somebody else. Like with my girls as well, one of the qualities that I love about them is, if they're in a playground or they're anywhere and they see somebody suffering, they're over there. They don't care who it is, they're over there hugging and making sure that they're okay. And that's what I want to be able to leave. That's the kind of mark that I want to be able to give to them. Their mum's a massive contributor to that as well. But it's very much about making sure that they see what love looks like. And that's all I can really offer. Do you know what I mean?
Talking, the show is called The Social Corner. We talked a lot about your social corner today. How do you want to see your social corner evolve in the next 10 years?
I want to see my social corner evolve to break boundaries and stereotypes in the way that things are supposed to be done. I feel like myself and many people that are coming from similar backgrounds to myself find it very difficult to level up in a traditional way of doing things. So I want to show a way of doing things that breaks the mold. I want to show people that it's possible to do things a little bit different, bring your culture in a little bit, bring your personal experience in a little bit, bring your broken awkwardness way to the table, and find a way to make it work. And I want to be able to inspire people and show that this is how it's going to be done. Like, one of the biggest feats that I'm doing and you know, working on at the minute is quite a big film, and I'm deliberately doing it in the most ridiculous way ever. You know what I mean? Like there's finances there to go and hire this person and that person, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm going to take you who has sweated your way to try and get to where you want to be, and I'm going to make sure that you've got the training to be in a position where you can work on this film now. You know what I mean? I'm going to do the same with you and you and you and you, and we're going to do it in a way which is unconventional. Do you know what I mean? And then we're going to market in an unconventional way as well, and we're going to build audiences in a way that isn't necessarily the way of things being done. I want to be able to take people with me and represent where we are right now. It's a new time, it's a new era. Let's break the mold. We've been held back for so long. When I say we, I mean anybody who is trying to make an independent living for themselves. Do you know what I mean? Like there's ways of doing it now where there isn't a rule book. So while you've got so many people telling you no, there are so many yeses that haven't even been explored yet, because we're living in a time that we've never seen before. Wow. So I want people to be able to realize that it's an open world. Let's go. Let's make it.
Yeah. The gospel. To Daniel.
The preach.
The preach. That's it. I just want to say thank you for coming.
No, thank you. It's been amazing. It's been amazing.
It's been amazing talking to you.
Amazing talking to you. Just make sure that anything bad we cut. Any secrets we cut.
Yeah.
Tricking me into, you know.
No.
Giving out a lot of info. Nah, it's been good. It's been good.
It's been
really
nice.
It's been good.
Daniel
cool.
Alexander, this is your social.
Thank you. Ooh.